if you love God and God loves you, why don't you have your own apartment? And I'm just like, okay. Hey y'all, it's Chimdi. I just want to let y'all know that I'm wearing a sweatshirt that says New York City and I love it. I'm back to answer another question. This question is from Ashley Goode, who says, hi Chimdi, I'm loving your Ask Chimdi series. I have a question. When you first quit your job, I know you spoke a lot about sitting back, trusting and allowing God to provide. How do you maintain that today without allowing your own agenda or fears to get in the way? I'm trying to practice this in my own life, but face doubt and fear and fully trusting God to provide completely. Or sometimes I'm just like, God, you're taking too long. I'm just gonna make things happen on my own. Ashley, this is truly the question. This is the question. I want to share a healing moment I had. So I'll do this thing where I'll connect with a future version of myself who already has the things I want. So my current situation, I'm in the process of moving out of this lovely apartment that I already poured so much love into. If you've watched my couple of vlogs, the process of being in this housing insecure situation has brought up so much for me. And what I've been doing is I'll check in with the Chimdi from the future who already has her own apartment. She's living by herself. She has an air fryer. She's painting her walls, living her best life. And when I'm in moments of stress, I'll be like, Chimdi, like, come here, girl, what's going on? Talk to me, you know? And this future Chimdi will come and guide me. You know, I was in this real feeling of insecurity and I was asking this future Chimdi, like, you know, basically for help, just to console me that things are gonna work out. And she said something. She said, Chimdi, you can trust God. And I started crying. I started to cry. And what came up for me was that, I mentioned this in another video where I say that how you feel about God is usually a reflection of how you feel about your own dad. I'm thinking of this person I know who sees God in the universe as this sort of uncaring, not good or bad, just like a neutral, not invested kind of energy. And they told me a story where they very literally as a child were put in a situation where it was very clear their parent did not care either way. They weren't going to comfort them, but they also weren't going to hurt them, but they just didn't have the capacity to actually be there. I'm one of 6 kids. There are a lot of us, and it was just my 2 parents, and they were immigrants from another country. They did not have like a network here in America, so a lot fell on my parents. Unfortunately, my dad would say things and make promises, and I'd have all these hopes and all these things that I wanted, and often he just didn't really have the capacity to follow up. And so I learned from a very young age to, you can want things, you can hope for things, and you might get them sometimes, and if you do, that's great, but you shouldn't count on it. You shouldn't trust that there's a consistency to someone, even someone who loves you dearly, always being there for you. And so when I thought of God as, it was a whole journey for even me to get to the point of like really conceptualizing that God loves me, like a very deep love. That was like all of 2020 was just like, God loves me, like for real, for real. And then lately it's been this thing around trust. Like, oh, I can trust God. Like I can ask God for things. I can be vulnerable and honest with God. I can say, I really want this thing. I really need this thing. Please help me with this thing. And I can trust that it'll actually come. I was gonna make a video about asking for help because I feel like I've gotten a lot better at it, but I realized I'm not actually at the point where I could make a video saying, I figured out how to do it, y'all. Because the reality is that I haven't. One of the main things that happens in the Timeless Wisdom training I'm a part of, which is this 2-year program I'm in focused on healing trauma, is that you get to raise your hand and ask Thomas Hubel a question about something that's going on in your spirit, and he'll sit there with you and answer the question in front of everyone until you have all 400 people, 200 if it's in person, holding space for you while you ask this question. And normally the nature of him, because he's just very present and very compassionate, you just end up crying very, 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 very hard. I've been on this whole journey about raising my hand because I know, and I'm very certain that if I raised my hand and I asked a question and I got vulnerable, I know that he would be able to hold space for me and the whole group would be able to hold space for me, and I would be seen and my needs would be met and I would feel honored and respected and all these beautiful things. But because from a whole life of learning to protect myself from people not being able to meet my needs and support me and love me and care for me the way I wanted, there is a thick and it's a hard shell around my heart, and the process of cracking that open and then allowing myself to be vulnerable and receive that love is so intense that just the thought that someone would not be able to hold that space and give me and support me and love me how I needed and it would actually hurt me instead, just the thought is so strong that even though I've seen over months that this person, this leader in our spiritual community can be trusted, I'm still actually not all the way ready to trust, and I don't feel safe. And as we know, we trust our feelings, we don't override them. So I'm not trying to push past that feeling. And I'm bringing it up because I think it really ties to the trust that I have with God. Only just last night I had an experience where I realized like, oh, God loves me. The way I used to conceptualize God was roughly like my age and had a vibe very similar to me, very confident and like just like a light smirk all the time. And I'd be like, God, can you get me a new apartment? And he was like, yeah, I got you, girl. Like he was very like, he was like the male version of Chimdi, if you've seen that video I made. And then I was listening to actually an Abraham Hicks video that a friend sent me. In it, she suggests you go to the window, you like stare out at the sky and you imagine that the entire universe is just staring right at you. And it's staring at you with this incredible love and support. And in that moment, I like turned to God, and instead of God being this like too cool for school, you know, like he just became this person just staring at me with like all this love and was like, wow, Chimdi, you're so beautiful, you're so incredible. Can I get you anything you want? Can I help you? Can I love you? What can I do for you? And I was just like, whoa, this is a lot of energy, bro, calm down. God was like, I just love you so much. And I'm like, just like back up, you know? Like it literally was making me uncomfortable to think about God loving me that much. And to be clear, this was literally just yesterday. So I just want to emphasize that I've put myself in this position where I'm like, ask Chimdi, as if I've figured it all out. And I want to just affirm that literally day after day, I'm getting these new downloads and these new insights, and it's reshaping and it's really deepening how I feel about God and how I feel about trust. As I mentioned, I'm in this process of trying to get this new apartment because of how I approach spirituality. I approach it like any other achievement-based process where I'm like, okay, the top person is Jesus. So my goal is to be like Jesus. A way you know you're like Jesus in my mind. Of course, all the love stuff, and we love that. But a big part is like manifestation. Like, when I can touch some water and turn it into wine, literally that is when I'll be satisfied and not a moment before. And so when I've been thinking about this apartment situation, it's been like, Chimdi, you should be able to manifest a 1-bedroom apartment, loft style, maybe out in Soho somewhere. Like, if you love God and God loves you, why don't you have your own apartment? And I'm just like, okay, what can I do to be more of faith? What can I do to love God more? What can I do to be more in line? It's this mindset that the only reason I don't have what I want is because of me, because of something that I'm not doing, something I'm not being, some idea I don't believe, some limiting mindset. So it makes me want to do more. I actually watched a video also sent by my friends, and it was from Neville Goddard, and he talks about the John state. This idea that John in the Bible was very much the rule follower. It kind of fits in with this idea and this mindset that the way into heaven is through our actions. It's through not eating certain foods or eating certain foods or not wearing certain clothes or wearing certain clothes. Like, it's all about these external things we do, and that is how we basically buy our way into heaven. And there's an alternative view, you know, which is the Jesus view, which is like, if you don't drink this wine and hang out with this tax collector and just stay rooted in love, that's actually the way. And so what I find is that when I'm like, okay, I'm not really seeing results how I want to, there is similarly this tendency to stress and to be like, okay, what can I do to get there? And I find that within YouTube, I'll sometimes be like, okay, my channel isn't growing fast enough. I need to upload more videos. I need to, like, what else can I do? I need to post on Instagram more. I need to take more of my clips from my YouTube videos and put them on Instagram, more reels. Like, I'm just always trying to manufacture and do and make it on my part. And my understanding, and it truly is a practice, is that it literally just comes down to how you are in your body, how you are being, and how you are being specifically in joy. And so literally this is all happening just last night. I was like, let me hop on here and let Ashley know what's going on in my spirit. Is this idea that instead of stressing about all these things that are truly outside of the realm of my control, this came from a book I read, Joy is My Compass by Alan Cohen. And he talked about this idea of peace. And what if we just decided for one day, like those French and German soldiers in World War II who decided for like Christmas Eve or Christmas Day to just like not fight for that one day and just like vibe out, and then literally the next day they got right back to fighting. But they had one day where they were like, let's just like for one day have peace. In the same way, I was like, you know what? For one day, I'm just gonna chill. I'm just gonna chill. Like, I had these thoughts are gonna come up about like, what about the application, and like, what about the rent, and what about this, and how are you gonna get your bed over there? And I'd be like, you know what? I'm gonna just I'm just gonna hold. I'm not telling that part of me that's concerned and that's worried that it's invalid, that I'm ignoring it and I'm shutting it off and I'm turning it off to the side. I'm just gonna say, you know what, just for this one day, let's just see if we just like pause. Let's just see what happens. This is new, but I found that in the past when I've had the thought come up and I've been like, this isn't a thought that makes me feel good, so I'm gonna stop thinking it and I'm gonna pick something else, that has led to better and better and better and better and better and better days. And literally this last week I got to do so much cool stuff, and it feels very much like the reflection of my intention around being way more in joy all the time. And actually, when I looked at it, I can speak to a number of experiences, and actually a lot of my time being here in the city has been full of all of these really great and beautiful and wonderful moments. I realized that one of my belief systems was that my life in New York would start once I had a lease. I've been here for months and months, hanging out, going out, meeting people, making friends, I've been doing all types of stuff. But because I had this idea around security, and specifically a lease being security, that kept me from really feeling like I was a New Yorker. And it still is like, I'm like, wow, I live in New York. Like, where do I go to bed every night? Here in New York. I live here in New York. When we have problems of trust, it's because we've had life experiences that showed us that the people and the ideas, the institutions that we believed would keep us safe, they ultimately didn't keep us safe. And so it's not about denying the part of us that says we can't trust this thing. It's about recognizing that the reason that we're not trusting is intelligent, and letting ourselves feel that hurt and that pain and that disappointment that came from not being able to trust these things. I have a friend, her name is Dr. V, and she does these things called compassion keys. I'm gonna link her stuff down below if you wanna sign up for one. She did one for me, and it literally consists of you kind of reflecting on an experience in your life and picking the age that's tied to that experience, and then her giving you compassion, like she connects with your higher self and says, I am so sorry about these different things that have happened. And that experience, I've done so many healing things, y'all, and I'd say TWT is the biggest, most powerful one, and she is also doing TWT, and I'd say that compassion key was the next biggest one. What's incredible about it is that now when I feel these things, before I would have just not wanting to feel, I'll stop and I'll say, I'm so sorry that happened, that you couldn't trust this person. I'm so sorry that happened, that this person let you down. I just let myself feel sorry. And I actually usually just cry a lot, y'all. Most of healing is crying tears. I let myself cry it out, and then I feel way better. And even though things haven't externally changed, I feel better, and that has allowed more dope stuff to come into my life, and allows me to show up and tell you what I can, and hopefully give you some peace, and hopefully give you some solace, which then leads to my channel hopefully growing and getting more opportunities and getting to meet cool people, which has already happened. It really is this ongoing thing for me as well. I don't think I've figured it out, but I'd say a big part is honoring the fact that you don't trust, because that was intelligent to do. Feeling the feelings that were too intense then and feeling them now if you feel resourced. It's that process that will give you all the energy to keep giving yourself and keep giving God a chance to show you that God can in fact be trusted. Hope this resonates with you, Ashley. Let me know in the comment section if it does. If you have a question, feel free to drop it down below, and if you want to do a one-on-one, you can sign up for some time with me. Thanks y'all for watching. Thank you Patreon people, y'all remain the best. I'll see you in the next video.